trial, but it certainly would probably make a lot of difference as to what she actually says. So I'm telling you what I'll do today based on what I heard, but there's no guarantee that that offer is still on the table if you go back in front of Vogel. It could go up, it could go down. That's the risk you will take at the further hearings.
No contest.
And I ain't accepting that. No contest means you're not contesting it, you just want to do the 90 days and be done with it. I want to know whether you did or did not do it. If you did it, then plead guilty and take the 90. If you didn't do it, say you're not guilty and set it for further hearings. Because I'm not taking any of this middle ground situation on this case today.
Guilty.
90 days, you're off probation. That includes a 90-day concurrent time with the new case. Would you please add the probation file on the docket today?
Other number, please.
9-7.
Miss, for whatever purposes this serves you, your testimony here today was helpful. Obviously, if he did what he was accused of, he could have and probably would have gotten a lot more at further hearings. But based on the fact that you somewhat owned up to your participation, his sentence was lower. Good luck to both of you when this matter is finished. There'll be no probations on these cases. You're excused. Judy Marr. It's the act of violence charge I referred to earlier. It's aggravated battery. You're facing 15 years in prison. You're not allowed to contact Charles Pickett. Now, didn't I hear his name somewhere earlier this morning?
Yes, sir.
He's there.
Where's Mr. Pickett? All right, deputy, have the two of them go to the front, stand directly in the middle of the courtroom in the front row, on the front, all the way to the front part. Stand side by side and don't say anything to each other, don't look at each other. Now, other side, deputy, so they don't have to have their butts in those people's faces. There you go. Now, you two, give me a close-up on them. Madam Court Reporter, thank you. Now, you two have got yourself in a world of trouble. Because of the problem you've gotten yourself into, you cause me problems. And the reason for it is real simple. You have cross-complaints. You've each accused the other person of acts of violence on each other. And because of the fact that I suspect the officers wasn't sure exactly what took place, they arrested both of you. And you're both in jail as a result of it. Now you, Miss Marr, are facing 15 years in prison. You allegedly approached him from behind in her car and struck him, knocking him to the ground. You ran him over, basically. Where's his paperwork, Madam Clerk? Because of the fact that I've ordered you both to have no contact with each other and due to the fact that you're both in jail, I've got to decide who's going to get out, who's going to stay, who's going to go back to the residence, if you live together, things of that nature. Now, he's charged with 2 counts, child abuse and battery. Where's the child abuse come in? There's a second party involved here, Nicole Pickett, who is about 13 years of age, or 14 would be my guess. They're claiming that during the argument he pushed his wife several times. As he went to leave the house, he took the phone away from his daughter and struck her over the head. He then fled on foot. So I'm not sure which one took place first, the fight in the house with you and the daughter, and then the wife ran you over later, or she ran you over first, then you went in the house and fought with them. Looks like she went after you. Looks like you did the first act of violence, so she chased after you in the car, would be my guess. State Attorney, do either of these two people have prior records?
Yes, sir. She is currently on probation for, it may be welfare fraud or some type of situation like that.
Pull up her fingerprint number and tell me if we have anything pending on her. Fingerprint number is 211429.
And do you want me to go ahead now, or?
And while she's looking that up, what about Mr. Pickett?
Your Honor, he has got a prior record. He just pled guilty to a lesser offense of attempted murder on her and battery on her, and did 60 days in the county jail May the 18th. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other battery convictions against her where she's the victim. He's got delivery of cocaine, burglary of a dwelling, trespassing, burglary of a structure convictions that do not involve her.
So her case of probation, if anything's a welfare fraud. You have no acts of violence.
No acts of violence.
Part against him.
No, sir.
Sounds
But
like
him.
she probably should have run him over. Continue him without bond, release her on her own recognizance. You can go back to the house, miss. You're gonna be stuck for a long time, I hope, Mr. Pickett. You're excused. This is the act of violence case I referred to earlier. You are charged with domestic violence aggravated battery against Katie Figley, F-I-G-E-L-E-Y. You allegedly struck her on the right side with an open hand during a verbal argument. You've resided with her as a family for the last 2 years. She is 5 weeks pregnant. So this is not a case where you used a weapon or caused serious bodily injury, but due to the fact that the victim is pregnant in the state of Florida, anytime you strike a pregnant female, the case automatically is a felony case facing 15 years in prison. State Attorney.
Nothing, Your Honor.
No priors, no probations. He has a job, he has an address. Okay, release him on his own recognizance with the conditions that I previously stated. Your relationship with that lady is over. You move out and you stay away until further hearings. James Wilhelm, aggravated assault, domestic violence case I referred to earlier. You allegedly threatened Catherine Wilhelm with a knife. You allegedly took the knife and threw it at the complainant. You apparently did this directly in front of the law enforcement officer who was there. The officer witnessed the event. They claim you observed you throw the knife at her. You've been married to her for 23 years. State Attorney.
Your Honor, I couldn't find anything that matched. There's one that came close, but I can't tell the court it's him.
So you can't tell if he has a prior record?
No,
The
sir.
court has concerns and safety for the welfare of the victim. Anybody who would take and throw a knife at his wife of 23 years right in front of the officer has significant problems. Continue him with no bond. Put him back on the docket next week. I will then determine next week whether or not he will have a bond or not. Mr. State Attorney.
Yes, sir.
Counsel for the defense. I'd like to hear from the victim if she chooses to be present. I'd like to know more about the situation, the relationship, and also was the knife like flipped at her feet? Was it thrown like a blade with intention to stick into the wall or stick into her? Things of that nature would make a substantial difference as to what his intentions were at the time of the event. Did they ever get Robert Frank Bass out of Morgan Street? Deputy?
Yes, Your Honor, he's here.
All right, stand up, Mr. Bass. Come forward and stand in the middle of the courtroom, please, sir.
The girlfriend's present, Judge, but she's not the victim.
Well, I only want to hear from the victim. I'm not hearing from any girlfriend who's not a victim. You've been charged with burglary and battery. You're facing life in prison. Bond has been set at $50,000. You've been ordered to stay away from the victim. You have an attorney that has filed a motion to reduce the bond or release you ROR. You're facing life in prison. Anytime you break into somebody's residence and commit an act of violence, that's a life felony. The motion for ROR is denied. There's no way in the world I'm releasing somebody on an ROR if he's facing life in prison unless the victim comes forward and testifies on the record. Counsel for the defense, your motion for ROR is denied. I will take up the motion to reduce bond. I will consider that. Counsel for the defense, your position.
Thank you, Your Honor. Linda Swanwick on behalf of the defendant. Judge, he has lived in Hillsborough County his entire life. He works for Tamp's Wholesale Furniture. He has been employed there for over a year. I called there and did verify that fact. He also has an apartment. He's the sole support of himself. He has had his apartment. He's been at the same location for over a year. He's never had a warrant for failure to appear. He is not a flight risk. All of his ties are to this community. His entire family is here. His release, Judge, with the condition that he have no contact with the victim, would not present a threat to the community. This incident occurred on May 11th. He was not at the scene when police arrived. However, he was not picked up until May 26th. I just present that to the court because, in my opinion, if he were such a threat to the community, law enforcement would have gone to his place of employment where he was appearing every day between that time and picked him up. However, that was not done. He wasn't picked up for almost